Hi Angel, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm okay.
You okay? Long time.
Yeah, I've been there.
Oh yeah, how is it going?
How is it going? It's quite hard and okay.
So many people have been missing you. They've been asking me to bring you back because of your confidence and not being shy about positive living. So how is the journey so far?
The journey is interesting, though quite both with challenges and the good side of things, especially when you come out as an advocate and you feel you have to speak in for other voices that cannot be heard or that can't have the confidence to speak on their issues. It's a journey whereby you're committed to being a voice for the voiceless. And as a person living with HIV, I feel it's my obligation to speak for those who cannot speak. Yeah, so that's how my journey has been. Of course, with challenges like backlashes, which you cannot avoid. Yeah, from family, from friends, from anywhere. Yeah.
We still have that. Abantu abalowooza muno positive living is like caring, because of the backlash from the family,
Mm,
friends, let's start with the family because with your story, you know what happened during the HIV. Now that
mm,
you've grown, you're making, you make your own choices, you
mm.
still get that from the family.
The issue is when people like us living with HIV come out to speak on these issues, the first thing people think is that you're looking for money. Secondly, is that when you air out issues like stigma and discrimination, people come out to think that you're not appreciating what they did for you, and yet yes, they might have supported you, but how did they support you? That is the question. So people do not admit their mistakes. They instead use their mistakes to use that backlash to challenge you, saying that why would you come out to say certain things, you know? So that those are the backlashes we experience. The issue of you coming out because you think you want money or you want connections, and the issue of not admitting that they actually do things like stigma and discrimination. Those are the kind of backlashes we experience. Especially as for me, that is what I experienced after after I've started the journey of boldly speaking about my status and airing out certain issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
We last still talked when you're not dating. And yeah, okay. The other thing about family and people thinking about money, is it about money? Is it about passion? Is it about awareness? Is it
Mm.
about counseling? What is it about? Because people need to know.
For me, it's not about money. I feel the best comfort when I stand and speak against discrimination and
Yeah.
stigma, and making sure that all stakeholders come together to address these issues. Because today, it's not like those days. Those days, they used to probably die of HIV/AIDS. Actually, it was AIDS by then. Mostly it was AIDS, the illnesses, because maybe there was no medication at all, because there was fear, and still it was also stigma. People would interrelate it to things of witchcraft. So they would die because of ignorance also. But today we get to see that, yes, we have done the awareness, we have sensitized communities, we have all these things have come out, and we are glad, yes, the government has done a bit of that. But we still see the hindrances of stigma and discrimination. So to me, knowing that we have aired out this issue and the government has taken part, and individuals, organizations have come out to see how do we support people living with HIV. It is the best thing addressing, by making sure that people have the medicine, by making sure that people are out of that ignorance of stigma and discrimination, is what is so important for me. And yes, we are able to achieve the targets of our nation. Then today we have the 95, 95, 95, saying, getting to know that people living with HIV know their status, and people living with HIV, the second 95, are actually getting the treatment, and the third 95 is seeing that people living with HIV are actually having a viral load that is suppressed. It is what I really want to see. Pardon?
As an advocate,
Mm.
what are some of the challenges you've faced ever since you started advocacy, speaking out loud, not being shy, not being, in the box that I am?
Me, I don't think there are very many. As me, Angel, first of all, what most people fear as people living with HIV, they think when they come out and speak of their status, they'll not have friends. Yes, still it benchmarks on the stigma and discrimination. They think they'll not get friends, people will desert them, they'll be neglected. When I started on this journey, I actually got more friends than expected. Me, my only biggest challenge has been the backlash from people that family, a few family people that have come out to look at me as someone who is into this for money, and maybe and also not admitting that there are things that they did that were not right, like the discrimination, the social discrimination, by the way. So it is what I've really been able to experience. But otherwise, it has been a smooth journey for me. I've made friends, both the positive living and the negative living. And yeah, they have utilized me for the information. They have gotten to know that a person living with HIV does not have to be bedridden. They are also productive. They're useful to the communities. So I don't think I've really experienced very many challenges. Most of the challenges are manageable. And when you start the journey of advocacy, first of all, you have to prepare your mind for everything, for both the negative and the positive. I prepared my mind. I knew I would meet different situations in life. I had to prepare my mind. So the preparation of my mind has been so easy for me to handle different situations, both the positive and the negative side. So I am very okay with my journey as an advocate for people living with HIV. Um, I've not been able to handle issues where those two, it's usually different. They're usually different. Negative people come differently, and the positive people come differently. I've mostly handled issues of the positive living people, trying to find love, trying to find people. And I have actually had struggles of where ng'omuntu ajja n'akugamba nti ayagala omulinkinge ku muntu omulala. It's quite a challenge kubanga oyinza osangayo omuntu ng'ali positive living nga they want to be with someone who is negative. Naye ensonga eyo eba nzibu nnyo okwandolinga kubanga ali negative anakiperceiving atya? How will that person living negatively perceive it? Of course, the moment they hear you're positive, bagambirawo, let's call it off before anything goes ahead. But science ezze tuyamba nnyo. Tulina kye tuyita U equals U. Untransmittable, undetectable equals to untransmittable. So bw'oba ng'omuntu amira bulungi eddagala to suppressing a viral load eyo neba nga akawuka tekakyalabika mu musaayi naye nga kali mu other parts of the body, the joints, the bone marrow, naye nga mu musaayi tekakyalimu. That is oba omuntu amira bulungi eddagala. Naye in scenarios where you're inconsistent, tomira bulungi ddagala, definitely akawuka kajja kubeera mu musaayi ate ojja osobola osiiga omuntu omulala. So ojja sanga nti ensonga eyo abantu abasinga tebagitegeera. Ate abantu balina misconceptions nyingi, balina ebirowoozo ebikyamu ku nsonga eyo, kale tebagyesiga nnyo. So ojja kusanga nti owa negative tali willing kukwatagana n'ali positive kubanga they feel insecure about the concept. So ensonga eyo tukyasika mu guwamu gw'amaanyi okulabika nti educating abantu abasinga okutegeera what U equals U is, undetectable, untransmittable. So n'olwekyo kyova olaba oyinza okusanga scenarios ng'abantu abalivinga ne HIV basiiga bannaabwe, not because baagala naye batya okudisclosinga, ate ne batya n'okubeera deserted oba okukyayibwa. Nakusiiga nga tayagadde naye nga afiringa tayagala kuluzinga, akwagala nnyo, ebintu ensonga ezo. Naye era emirundi mingi tujja tugezaako okubuulirako ku bantu abali positive living. Oli ayinza obutavaayo okukyogerako nti nga nze bwe nkyogerako on air, naye n'osanga nga in your small circles you meet someone you try to disclose. Sometimes we have had discordant couples ng'oli ajja kwagala nga bw'oli, but nga bwe nkugamba it's not a what a common thing, but they are also there. We have discordant couples ng'omu mulwadde omulala ali okay, si mulwadde wa HIV. So I feel that transparency is important rather than carrying a burden ey'okubanga omuntu alwadde lwakuba gwe, kubanga tuzze tukimanyi nti no essaawa zino kooti ya Uganda bw'ekizuula nti omuntu bw'atwala omusango mu kooti nti wamusiize intentionally bajja kusiba. Ate kati tuli mu kirwanyisa mu ngeri nti transparency ebeerewo. There should be some transparency amongst people. It may not be open, but where you feel that at some point you need to engage this person, let's have a human heart to try. Bwabanga kale gwe kikulemye okwogera kale match with this person to hospital, mukole tests ziveeyo alabe nti zino zivuddeyo nti oli negative oli zivuddeyo nga ziri positive, awo mutandikireyo discussion whether you can be together. Definitely, people take long to believe. Abasinga balowooza, almost people think when you're HIV you have to be bedridden. That is what most people think. But we are out of that concept. Today, medicine is there. Yes, we are having issues of drug stockouts, but it is not like those days where we didn't have medicine at all. So, because of the medicine, we count our medicine as life. It's what is making us healthy and look good. And so you meet these girls and you're like, yes, I am walanga mulungi, or this person is very beautiful. And when someone like me will openly tell you, you know what, I can't date with you because I'm HIV positive. Are you okay with it? Can you be with me for who I am? And the person be like, no, you're lying. The way you look, onimba. But at the end of the day, you're like, no, we make them understand. We tell them that it's medicine that actually keeps us healthy. It's able to energize our CD4 counts or the white blood cells so that we are able to live normally like other people. So it is, yeah, you find those people who will definitely have issues with you, believing you that you're actually positive. So what you do in such scenarios, you match them to your clinic. And they confirm from the clinic whether where you get your medicine or to a random clinic. But usually it's better when you take the person to your exact clinic where you get the medication from. First of all, it starts with the person who knows that they're actually HIV positive. That is what I said earlier, having the human heart. Many people are humans, but they actually don't have the humanity. Tulina emitima egiringa egy'ensolo. Okitegeera. So gwe alina akawuka. To what extent do you really feel pity for the other person, or what we call empathy, okubeera mu ngato z'oyo omuntu? Yes, tukimanyi nti emirundi mingi fe abalwadde tujja kwekubagiza, tujja kwekyawa, tujja kunyiiga, anti ne tunyiigira oba kati for example nze natuukawo ekiseera we nanyiigira abazadde bange, naye kati aha bwe n'abanyiigira nfunemu ki? So ojja kusangayo oli nga yakafuna maybe from a partner nga munyiivu nnyo ayagala kukola revenge. No, but at the end of the day gwe ali positive olina okusooka n'oembracinga engeri y'obuntu mu ggwe, the human heart, the humanity. Then kubanga muyinza okugenda to a random test ne batakasangamu, and you know these machines are very funny. Oyinza okugenda mweno clinic ne kadetectinga, n'ogenda mundala nga ne batakalaba. Okay, now in a scenario where you've moved in all clinics and they have not found the HIV infection, what happens? Oli ajja kwegatta naawe ng'alowooza, hey, you're okay, yes. Nga bwe nkugambye nti oyinza obutasiiga. Naye, what if you want this relationship to go on another level? You want it to result into marriage. How will you continue to hide from your partner? So, rather from the first day, mugenze mu ddwaliro temukizudde nti mwekali, probably be open to the person. Tell them, banange, this thing is about humanity. Kubanga olugendo luno terukoma ku ssaawa eyo. Olugendo luno tuli mu tunuulira in a way of marriage. How are you going to live together in secrecy of your status? So kunze advice yange nandiwadde nti be open from the right start. Yes, mugenze mu ddwaliro oyinza obutakimwatulira immediately mugenda mu ddwaliro ne babakebera ne basanga yes, the virus is not in the blood. But at the end of that day, think back and you're like, now we are taking another step of dating, and then from dating to marriage. How am I going to maintain this lie? Be open, break it down, and yeah, if the person is meant to be yours, they will stay. Definitely. Okay, yeah. Advocacy for anything regarding HIV does not have a class of people. It doesn't it doesn't cluster mbu abali HIV positive bokka be balina okuadvocatinga oba abali negative bo tebalina byeteekamu kubanga byo tebibakwatako. Ffenna nga bwe tuli kitukakatako. It's our collective responsibility. And actually even UNAIDS, when it did a review 2021 to their strategy for 2021 to 2026, when they did a review, they realized that we cannot zero down HIV as one person. They realized there are so many inequalities. So how do we actually zero down HIV and it is zero? How do we handle it? Nebachizuula nti we have to be a collective effort. Both partners in the whole world, both communities, everyone, they have been victimized by this public health issue, the epidemic called HIV. We believe we have all lost people under the AIDS scam. Back then, we all have family members who have suffered this disease, whether you're negative, probably your parent, probably a sister, probably a brother or friend, whether you're negative or positive, you have that person akwatako eyali alwaddeko HIV AIDS n'afa oluusi. So it has no limitations. We are all concerned citizens because today anyway, you might be negative. Tomorrow, you're positive. Not everyone was born actually HIV positive. Most people have actually attained HIV at a later stage. So we believe advocacy, everyone, it is a collective effort to see that we zero down this disease. We find a community where we are no longer dying of HIV AIDS, especially AIDS-related illnesses, out of carelessness, out of failure to access drugs, out of failing to go for the checkups, treatment, to go for the test and treat. It is a collective responsibility for all of us, whether positively living or negatively living.
Yeah, so means it's a call for negative people to do
Yes, actually, the negative should even do it them more because they are at risk. As I said, today you might be negative, tomorrow you're positively living. And it's a huge trauma. We have seen people who have just entered our circles and they're struggling to accept the status. Some have even died out of carelessness, out of losing hope. And then you wonder, what of us who have been with this disease for very many years? How do they think we live? So it is even more cautioned for negatively living people to take it seriously in advocating for against HIV/AIDS. It depends on how everyone perceives it. It can't be a new normal. Like you're saying it, it is because if we say a new normal, it's like you're attracting everyone to get HIV because it looks like it is okay to get HIV. No, it is not okay. It's hard for us who are there having to take that pill every day. But if you're already in the situation, you can still live life normally as long as you're not entertaining stress, as long as you're not putting yourself in a position of vulnerability, looking like the world has ended. No. Despite the fact that you might be living with HIV, you can still live life normally, like the other people who are negatively living. As I've said, it is not normal. It's not a normal situation to be with HIV. We can't normalize it. It's not okay, but we can also be okay even when we are in the situation of living with HIV. We can eat well, we can go for gym, we can go partying, depending on what gives you peace. Yeah, true. We have also seen a diversion of funding happening. We have seen that the other diseases, the pandemics, the other epidemics that are available, that, for example, now today we are looking at COVID-19 and cancer is one of the threats we have. It has really shut down the awareness. We have less invested in actually awareness against HIV, but forgetting that at the end of the day, whether COVID is around, for example, when we went into the lockdown, we realized that during the lockdown there was a high HIV prevalence of women. Today, looking at the report from UPIA, the Uganda population HIV, sorry, best HIV research or survey that was done, it shows us that our HIV prevalence is at 5.5 in the whole nation of Uganda, looking at women being 7.1% and men at 3.8%. That is so weird. How does the HIV prevalence of women going up to 7.1? It means that the report is showing that more women are being infected than the men. But the challenge of men not being identified as more is because their uptake on health is poor. Most men are sick, but they don't go to access the medication. So that is why they keep telling us that the men are low, but the fact we know it. The fact is that they don't actually go for the checkups. It's mostly the women that go for those checkups, maybe because they're pregnant and the pregnancy test forces you to do the HIV test, so you find out that you have HIV in your blood. So it has really affected us, and right from the lockdown, it shoot high. So it's threatening. Today we have very many people living with HIV, especially after this lockdown. We realize that HIV has gone up and not much is being done because the focuses have been diverted to other things like cancer, like COVID-19. So me personally, I call upon the attention of the government that yes, wherever they're moving around to cancer, to COVID, they should not adjourn their support as it is said in the Abuja Declaration. 50% goes to the health sector and HIV has to have it. So we need it. Don't divert the money for HIV to COVID. Let it keep there. Yeah. Okay. Currently, we are facing drug stockouts for especially third line people. For your information, we have about 2,500 people taking third line medication. It is now 6 to 9 months. We have been facing a challenge of uninterrupted uh, uninterrupted commodities of the third line medication, ARVs, being out of stock. It is a really threatening situation. Imagine someone being off medication for up to 6 to 9 months. This is a situation that started last year in November. From 2021 to 2022, we're experiencing this. And for us as a coalition of HIV members, we came out to realize this situation of our members who are on third line. We have family members, we have people that are attached to us, people that we advocate for out there that are on third line. And remember, third line is the last line for someone living with HIV. Once you reach third line, it means that you have no options left. That means the next option is death. The world has let you go and prepare your death. So we are facing that challenge of interrupted access to medication for these people. And we also realize that some facilities also have interrupted services for second line people. Now imagine all these, the second line is being in and out of stock. Third line is being in and out of stock. What is happening? We are not going to achieve the strategies as a nation, the 95 strategies. It means that we are going to have more transmission going up. So byonna bye tukolera bya bwereere. We will not have the zero discrimination, we will not have the zero new infection, we will not have the zero new deaths coming in because of HIV. People are going to continue dying and more people are going to be infected. Even the being born babies are going to be infected. Yet it's one of our strategies as a nation to eliminate mother to child transmission. So it's such a disappointing situation seeing that medicine is out of stock. And as a CSO, with our fellow consortium members or coalition members, we came up to send a call to the AIDS prevention department in the Ministry of Health. On the 27th of July, we were able to state our call to the Ministry of Health under the AIDS prevention department, and we were so disappointed. Remember, during that period, we were actually having the AIDS conference in Canada going on. I don't even know what those people were discussing. While people are down here not having drugs, someone is in the AIDS conference saying what? We were so shocked knowing that all the top people in government that are supposed to be tabling our issues were not in office. It is so disappointing. So it is my call to government, my call to Global Fund that funds our medicine, my call to national medical stores to make sure that we have medicine available. And we have also had issues of the medicine that was procured for third line was not even only third line, both second and third and first line. We have medicine procured and it has a short time of expiration. So really, how do you procure medicine? And we realized that most people's medicine were expiring on 31st July. Now imagine a scenario. You've received medicine for only 2 weeks and in those 2 weeks it's going to be expiring. So what are we doing? We need to stand up as a country, as a nation, as a community, collectively, to be able to have the end of drug inconsistency. What? The Ministry of Health, the government of Uganda, national medical stores, we have Global Fund, we have PEFA. They are all responsible for making sure that we have medicine available for everyone living with HIV.
So this problem has been tackled in the right way or in the wrong way?
We, it is typically wrong way because we don't have clear information of why the medicine is out of stock. Like literally we get different information from different areas. You will hear Minister of Health will tell you medicine is available, but in the facilities they're telling us it is not there. The people swallowing the medicine, our colleagues, they don't have the medicine. Me, I have someone personally attached to me. When we came out to on this call, I immediately after I got off media, I started receiving calls of, do you know that this person has only gotten medicine for 2 weeks and it's nearing expiration? Now imagine such a situation, really. So they're not doing, if really there is an issue of stock out, let them come out and speak to the nation. And then we know how long is it going to take. Rather than everything happening in the hideout, we don't know what is going in government, we don't know what is going in Ministry of Health, we just see things in the facility level. People just suffering, like our lives are being taken for granted. And we know that even in government, there are people living with HIV and they're on medication. So how then can those people be comfortably taking medication and they're not actually fighting for their colleagues who are also in the same situation? So it is so disappointing for us as a community of people living with HIV. Our way forward, at the level at which, as an organization, as Uganet and other colleagues of ours, awareness can't shift from schools. We need it at all levels. Whether in school, whether in a bar, whether in a hotspot area. I know many times we don't want to admit that sex is work, but we need to admit that those people have their work. It's sex work. We cannot continue to perceive that only the people who get HIV are those who do bad manners, like how religious leaders come out and tell us. and brand us that only all those who are HIV living, they are those that did bad manners, they are prostitutes, they are what, things like that, that they usually brand us. We have seen cyberbullying coming out to brand us that way. It is so disappointing. For me as a person, I believe that every organization out there is mandated. Every organization, every community, every person out there, no muntu chinomu, an individual, whether government, at whichever level, we are all mandated to do the awareness. We are all mandated to find the information and get the information on HIV and AIDS. We are all mandated to know our human rights. What does the Constitution say? What does the Human Rights Declaration um, tell us? Because we believe that our government signed on that document, the UDHR. We believe it's signed, and it's a signatory, and it's ratified. So what is happening? So let the government. I'm holding the government accountable, because that is where our ground starts. From the government, we have the Ministry of Health. Let it tell us the information we need to know. If there is a challenge, let us get to know. And how do we chip in as CSOs, as individuals, as communities? How do we chip in to support government, to support Ministry of Health, to support National Drug Authority? So awareness has to keep going on, even at schools level, because we believe, actually, when we go back to the issue of stigma and discrimination, we have seen that mostly in schools, that has been an issue, and it has affected adherence of medication for most students. So schools, it has to be there. Hotspots, we have to meet those sex workers and tell them, you know what, there is HIV. That is why even when it comes to service provision, they also have the access to those services. The condoms, they need them. Today we have the ring. The ring, I don't know if most of us have heard about it, but the ring is there. It's a prevention method for women from HIV, especially those living negatively. So it is all of us, we need to be involved in this run against HIV and AIDS. My last words is, first of all, to the people living with HIV, we have to keep calm, and above all, we have to love ourselves. So it starts with yourself. It starts with you admitting that you're in a situation and you need to emotionally deal with yourself, accept all this, and then adhere well to medication. Get to know that so many people are failing to get this drug. So for you who is getting the drug, what are you doing about it? Are you swallowing it responsibly as prescribed by the doctor? So we need to take that medication properly. And then we need to have a human heart. Humanity should be fronted. Let's not carelessly infect others. Let's also sit back and think, what if it were you? Let's be empathetic and protect our sisters and brothers from the disease. And then to our government, to our fellow organization members, we need to continue to draw our ignorance of HIV and AIDS. We need to continuously do the awareness campaigns. The health education is still needed. As I've already spoken, we are at a prevalence of 5.5% HIV in our nation, Uganda, and women is at 7.1% HIV prevalence. And for the men, it's 3.8% as a nation in Uganda. So there is so much to be done. Our men, we need you to come out and admit to do the tests, admit to start the medication, and we shall have our targets of 95, 95, 95 achieved. So our government, please, I call out that we can be supported in the accessibility of medication, of the third line, of the second line medicine, of ARVs, the first line of ARVs. Let it be available so that we can achieve the zero infection, the zero new infection, the zero discrimination, and the zero new deaths of people living with HIV.
oyagala omukolo gw'ogwenjawulo gubeere n'ebijjukizo mu nnyumba yo kankwanjulire ba King Montage Photo Studio fe bakafulu mu kkuba ebifaananyi n'okukola vidiyo. Olina wedding, birthday party, kukyala, nika, baby shower, photoshoot oba music shoot na buli kimu kyonna ky'oyagala fe tusobola okuwa ebijjukizo ebirungi eri ebirooto byo ate nno mwana wattu kusintiiza omuntu wa bulijjo. Tusangibwa Nankulabi ku Bitaala ku Prime Tower Level 3 Room D04. Okumanya ebisingawo tukubire ku nnamba zino 0702 104 125 oba 0755 311 731 oba 0777 223 405. King Montage Photo Studio fe tusobola okuwa ebijjukizo ebirungi ate nno mwana wattu kusintiiza omuntu wa bulijjo.